What is going on, guys? It is Cardtrix 8 here. Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you that really awesome control that you just saw in the intro to this video. It's not super difficult to learn. If you have some experience with sleight of hand, I think you'll find this relatively easy with just a little bit of practice. If you're a beginner and you're new to sleight of hand, this will definitely be a little bit knacky to learn, but I really think with some practice you can get this down. This has become one of my favorite controls as of late. It just looks super clean. Let me show you guys once again what the control looks like. We can have a card selected from the center of the deck here. Let's say we're going to go with this card. In this case, we have the Two of Hearts. Now, of course, you could have selected any card from the deck, but we'll go ahead, take the card, lose it somewhere there in the center of the pack, just as so. But in that action, the card already comes right back to the top. So let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the tutorial. Alright guys, hopefully you stuck around for the tutorial. So before we get into the mechanics here, one thing that I want to make clear is this is not one of those moves that you really need in your arsenal. It's not necessary. And part of that is due to its practicality. Essentially, what's actually happening with this control is you're taking one of the most basic controls in card magic history and making it harder on yourself and doing more work to accomplish the same exact thing. I'm going to be completely upfront with you. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So, I guarantee almost every single one of you know this control. We have the Queen of Hearts. I'm going to take that card, place it somewhere in the center of the deck just as so. Snap my fingers, and the card comes right back on top. Now, of course, I bet you 99% of you know exactly how that's done. All you're doing is you're doing a double lift, meaning you're flipping over two cards as one. So I'm showing the Eight of Diamonds when in reality we have a second card behind. Flipping the double back over, taking that card, what appears to be the Eight of Diamonds is actually in a different card, put it in the middle, push it in, boom, it's back on top. That's a very easy, very basic control, but hey, you know what? It actually works. It looks good for lay audiences. Now, this control that I'm about to teach you, here's the brief overview. You're doing a double lift, taking both cards, placing them in the middle while retracting the selected card into a Tenkai palm, placing it back on top as you push the card in, and boom, now it's back on top. Both controls accomplish the same exact thing. In fact, again, keep this in mind, we mainly perform for lay people. We don't often perform for other magicians, right? I guarantee you, learn this control, right? Just take the time to learn this. Get a friend of yours. Show them both of these controls. Don't even do a trick. Just show them the controls. Be like, okay, look. We'll take the Queen of Diamonds. We'll place it somewhere in the center of the pack. Snap my fingers. The card comes right back to the top. All right? Let's use the Queen of Diamonds again to keep it consistent. Then show them this control. All right, so look, we have the Queen of Diamonds. We'll take the card, place it somewhere in the center of the pack, as you can see. And snap my fingers, it comes right back to the top. They're going to look at you and tell you you just did the same exact thing twice. Because to a layperson, the methods, again, and the sleights don't matter. They just saw you take a card, put it in the middle, and jump to the top. To ordinary lay spectators, these two controls are the same exact thing. Hence why learning this control isn't really necessary. Because again, you're doing extra work to accomplish the same exact thing. The only real difference here and why this control might be worth learning, one, it looks incredibly clean when performed to perfection. So it's one of those things that's just fun to perfect and fun to practice. But two, when it comes to a lot of magic, in particular with this basic control, you do the double lift. So again, it's two cards as one. You flip the two cards over and you place what appears to be their card in the center. What you're doing right here is you're playing with the spectators' assumptions. They assume this is the Two of Hearts, and they're convinced this is the Two of Hearts. Obviously, you're a step ahead. It's on top of the deck. So that control is a lot like really all of magic. You're playing with your spectators' assumptions, right? But with this control that I'm about to teach you, there is less assumption with this. It's somewhat more convincing because now, rather than them just assuming that's their card, with this one, you're actually, or I should say the spectator rather, is actually getting that image. They're getting the image of their card. They can see their card at this point, and they can see it go inside of the deck. They're seeing it happen. So this isn't just assumed. They know for 100% that's their card because they just saw you place it in the deck, right? It's that simple. But again, you're a step ahead now. So again, in a sense, yes, you're still playing with their assumptions because they assume that that's their card. But this is less assumption and more, okay, they saw it happen. So visually, this one is slightly more powerful. But again, at the same time, you show both of these to the same person, they're going to tell you it's the same exact thing, I guarantee you. So again, not necessary. I'm just being upfront with you. But I hope that doesn't deter you from learning this because, again, it's super fun and I think you guys will at least get some enjoyment out of it. Keep in mind, too, different situations call for a different sleight. So it can never, ever hurt. There is zero negative into learning new techniques, new sleights, because at the end of the day, they can always help you out in different situations with your card magic, all right? So before we get into, well, not before we get into it, but really there are two prerequisites that you want to be familiar with before diving into this control. One is the double lift, meaning you flipping over two cards as one. That's a pretty basic beginner move, beginner concept rather, because there are some advanced versions of the double lift, but you should all know how to do a double lift by now. And then also, in addition to the double lift, you want to be comfortable holding a card in what is called tenkai palm, which looks a little something like this. You're holding on the long edges by the thumb and the inside of your hand just as so, okay? If you're not comfortable with holding the card in tenkai palm, just get used to holding the card in this position and look in front of a mirror too. Learn how to angle your hand so you can hold this card in this position without flashing it, okay? Now, whether you're comfortable with tenkai palm already or not, here's what I want you to practice before diving into this move. Really practice holding the cards like this and retracting it in your hand into a tenkai palm like this. So you're starting here, you have your thumb at the back toward the upper corner and your four fingers along the front, and you're just retracting the card back into the hand into a tenkai palm like this. You want to practice this motion. All that's happening when you do this is your middle finger is essentially doing all the work. Your middle finger is pushing back on the card and it's pivoting off the thumb right here. So it's really the middle finger and the thumb. You can see it pivots. And naturally, just try this without even thinking about it. What you're going to notice is when you do this, when you pivot the card back, it naturally turns from this vertical state into this horizontal state. Just naturally, it'll happen. Try it out for yourself. So once you retract it into this position, what you want to do is now use this index finger to kind of push the card back slightly. So rather than holding it here, just kind of push it back ever so slightly. Once you're here now, you're just going to re-grip the thumb. So you extend the thumb out onto the edge, and now you're in a tenkai palm. So again, you're here, the middle finger pulls back, it pivots off the thumb, so now it goes vertical to horizontal, push the card back ever so slightly with the index finger, re-grip, and now you're in tenkai palm. So you want to just be comfortable with learning how to do this very, very quickly, all right? That's all it is. Once you're comfortable with that, then you can really start to get into the move itself here. So go ahead and grab yourself a deck of cards and let's just get into it. So for starters, you're going to have a card selected and you need to get the card in a position where you're in a double lift. So you can go about this in a number of different ways. You can dribble the cards, have someone call out stop. From here, just cut the cards where they said stop and then just do a double lift off the top to show this is the card they stopped at. You can do that. If you want, you can just say here, go ahead and touch the back of any card as you spread through. Say they touch this card right here. Same exact thing. Just cut to where they say stop and then execute a double lift. Okay, so same thing. You can do what I did in the demonstration earlier if you know how to. I'm not going to go in depth with this, but you can have someone call it stop as you riffle through and just take a center double lift, which looks a little something like that. You can do that. Or this is actually what I would recommend you do. Have someone pick a card so they can take the card out themselves. They can hold it. They can look at it. In this case, we have the 8 of diamonds. And while they're looking at the card, this is perfect misdirection for you to just kind of drop your hands down to the side real quick. You're just going to thumb this card off. Hopefully the camera can pick this up. But just drop your hands to your side and just thumb the card over against your body and use it as a lever to flip it over on top of the deck. You can push over, catch a break at this point, and just keep your hands down by your side. No one will see this happen because they're all focused on the card they just selected. You can take the card back and then just place it on top of the deck as you turn, making sure not to flash that card. And now you're in a double lift position ready for the control. So nevertheless, get into a double lift position any way that you can upon a card being selected. And again, you can really do this any way that you want to. So once you're in,
a double lift position. Let's say the 8 of diamonds will be the selected card for tutorial purposes, okay? So you're here, you have a break on the 2 cards here. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna come from the back, use your thumb, just lift up on both cards. This will give you easy access to pick up both cards just like this. So you're holding both cards as I showed you earlier when I told you to practice retracting the card at the Tenkai palm like this with the 4 fingers at the front and the thumb at the back toward the corner. You're holding now just the cards in the same exact way. Only difference is now you're holding 2 cards instead of 1. Okay, that's the only difference. So you're holding the cards in this position. And essentially, you're doing the same exact thing that I just told you to get comfortable with. I'll even take the deck out of the picture. Let's just focus on the 2 cards for now, okay? Holding it in this position. What's happening is you're taking that front card and retracting it, just like this, but still holding this card in the same place. Now, again, if you're familiar with Tenkai Palm and this motion, I think with a little bit of practice, you'll find this to be pretty easy. I didn't actually find this to be too difficult. It didn't take me too much time to learn this. Again, if you're a beginner, this might be a little knacky, but you'll get it with a little bit of practice. You're essentially doing 2 things at once. You're sticking both of these cards in the deck as you retract the selected card into Tenkai Palm. So that's what's happening. So essentially, again, with the deck out of the picture, it would look like this. That's what's happening. In fact, you can do that if you want to practice. Take the deck out of the picture and just use your hand. Put the cards in your hand, take this card, and retract the other one back into Tenkai Palm. So you're doing 2 things at the same time. Again, you're placing the cards in and retracting 1 card into Tenkai. So this is something you can practice too. Practice holding the 2 cards and just pulling the 1 card back while keeping this one stationary. Just practice doing this. Keep practicing this motion. Again, it's the same thing. You're using the middle finger. The middle finger is doing the work. The middle finger is pulling the card back into this Tenkai. And now, as you grip this card, you can re-grip this hand into Tenkai Palm just like this. Okay? So, again, you're here. 4 fingers at the front, thumb at the back. Keep it toward that top corner. Pretend it's going in the deck. Use the fingers now to pull this card back. So this is what's happening. You're pulling it back. And you can see how this is on an angle. So they'll still be able to see this card, but if you're angling your hands correctly, they won't be able to see this card because your hand is providing all the cover. This goes in, and now you have plenty of time to pull this hand away and re-grip into Tenkai. And what's great about this is the misdirection is perfect because you're going in like this. So everyone's going to be focused on this card going in the deck. No one's really looking over here, and no one's going to see what's going on behind the scenes over here. So now you're just applying that into the deck now. So what you're doing here is you have the 4 cards, again, 4 fingers, thumb at the top, riffle it somewhere into the center. So you're placing both cards into the center of the deck just like this. But now, this card is sitting inside of the deck while you retract this card. So again, middle finger's pulling back right here. All the attention's right there on the card going in the deck. So now you're here, and now you just pull this hand away, re-grip, and what I like to do is I like to point. I point to this card here to kind of give me a justification for why I'm holding my hand in the way that I'm holding it. Because think of it this way logistically. If I do the control, I come here like this, and I just pull my hand away and I'm holding it like this, this is unnatural, this looks weird. You want to have a motivation for, having your hand kind of curled up like this. So think about it. If you're not holding a card in your hand, how do you point to things? Like this, right? You point like this without having cards. You close your fist except for your index finger and then, occasionally your thumb, right? So this is how you point to things. So that's the motivation. You're pulling back and now you're pointing. So it literally looks the same exact way. The only difference now is I'm just secretly holding a card in my hand, but it's literally the same exact hand motion. So use the pointing of the card with your patter to justify why your hand is in this balled up motion. Again, if you just do this and keep your hand stationary here, curled up like this, looks very, very unnatural, very suspicious. It's a dead giveaway. So really utilize the pointing of the finger to justify why your hand is curled up like this. It looks so much more natural that way, all right? So you're pointing to the card. You have the card here in that Tenkai Palm. Because notice that tenkai can be here with the fingers open or with the fingers closed. It's the same exact thing, okay? So you're pointing, and now to finish the control, all you're going to do is come over to the top of the deck. You're going to extend the fingers out again. You're going to place this card on top as you push this card in. And then I like to add a little riffle. Not necessary, but I like to add the little riffle at the end. And the control is done. That's essentially all there is to it. So let's look at it again here, okay? So again, any means necessary, get into a double lift position here. I'll do a center double for this case. So I have the 4 of spades here. Again, now I'm in a double lift position. So I can now take this 4, riffle down the deck here, again holding by the 4 fingers in the front and the thumb at the back. Place these 2 into the deck like this. Now take the middle finger and curl the card back into the hand. It's a tenkai palm as you place this in. Once the card is free, make sure you regrip it to tenkai, and now use the index finger to point as you take your hand away to justify why your hand is curled up the way it is. Come over to the top, extend the fingers out as you place this on top, and push this card in simultaneously. Riffle if you want, and now the card is on top of the deck. So one more time, let's take a look at it in full speed so you really get the idea of what it should look like, okay? So we have the Jack of Hearts. Place it somewhere in the center of the deck right there. Push it in, and now it is on top of the deck. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It's a simple explanation. Again, it's a little knacky at first, but I really think with some practice, you guys will all get this down. Please, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. I will answer them all to the best of my ability. And I'm genuinely curious. Please do leave a comment. Do you see yourself ever using this?